We're having film night tonight. Our next film is going to be by Eduardo Grojo. It's called Conversaciones con un mono. Eduardo, we'll take your talk afterwards, I think. Yes, thank you. And following that, immediately, will be a film by Adam Ford. I'll just tell you a bit about our filmmakers. Eduardo Grojo is a filmmaker, a director, and a producer, and a member of La Academia del Cine since 1997, which he's not new to this game. He was director and scriptwriter of many films of international acclaim. And his film that he'll be presenting here today, Conversaciones con un mono, is a lovely piece. The second film that you'll be seeing immediately thereafter is by Adam Ford. Adam is a noted futurist and a former board member of Humanity Plus. And he made this film, which won the Humanity Plus Video Prize in, I believe, 2018. And I think you'll find that excellent as well. Afterwards, we're going to have a question and answer with Eduardo. And then there will be a brief excursion to various museums for anybody who's interested, following which there will be our famous cocktail after the show, which should begin about 7:30 or 8 o'clock, depending on the theater schedule and how that works out. So we hope you'll ride with us. We'll show you two short films, and then we'll have a Q&A with Eduardo Grojo. Okay? Thank you.
El kintsugi es un arte tradicional japonés. Cuando un objeto se rompe, se sellan las piezas con oro. El objeto reparado cobra un nuevo valor, ya que sus recientes cicatrices le dan más fuerza y más belleza. Hay que tener una gran sensibilidad para hacerlo bien.
No, eso no. En 25 años no habrá naves volando todavía.
¿No quieres naves?
No.
En todas las películas futuristas hay naves.
Pues en esta no. Y no creo que haya naves volando sobre las ciudades en 2045. Por un tema de aterrizaje, ¿entiendes? Hace falta espacio para aterrizar. Y en las ciudades no hay. No hay de eso.
Los drones aterrizan.
No insistas. Me dijeron que tenías ideas y soluciones brillantes, pero... no sé, no lo veo.
¿Y lo del kintsugi? ¿Te gusta? Así se ve que el robot es sensible.
Sí, bueno, me bastaría con ver al robot regando una planta. A ver, empecemos de cero. A ver, ¿qué se te ocurre si digo en una casa se ha cometido un crimen?
¿Que el asesino es el mayordomo?
Bueno, vale. No hay mayordomo, es una familia.
Oh, una familia. Entonces el padrino.
Fredo, eres mi hermano mayor y te quiero bien. Pero nunca te pongas del lado de alguien que vaya contra la familia. Nunca.
También imitas voces.
Me llamo Ian, inteligente, artificial y narrativo. En mi base de datos están todos los libros y guiones que se han escrito. Películas, series, hasta cortometrajes. Tengo una red neuronal muy avanzada. Cuando quieras te paso el test de Turing.
Bueno, ven aquí, Ian. Joder, con el puerto USB de los huevos.
¿Has oído hablar de Alfa Cero?
Sí, eso es algo de ajedrez, ¿no?
En 1996, Deep Blue derrotaba a Garry Kasparov, el mejor ajedrecista del mundo. Fue histórico.
Sí, me acuerdo.
En 2017, Alfa Cero, una inteligencia artificial, tumbaba a Stockfish, el programa de ajedrez más avanzado del momento. Solo necesitó unas horas para aprender a jugar y para inventarse sus propias estrategias. Una inteligencia artificial capaz de aprender por sí misma. Pues yo soy igual. En 4 horas escribo un guión, aprendo de mis fallos y mejoro exponencialmente. Tengo conexiones a todo.
¿Qué es todo?
Internet. En las redes hay ideas. Por ejemplo, ¿sabes que hay científicos trabajando en crear un mamut?
Eso es ciencia ficción.
Se podrá. Y con manipulación genética, un mamut podrá llegar a ser una mascota.
No había pensado meter animales, pero... es una idea.
Te lo he dicho. Me programaron para dar soluciones creativas. Soy como Walt Disney o William Shakespeare.
¿Y qué sabrás tú de Shakespeare?
Ser o no ser. Esa es la cuestión.
Un mamut... sí, un mamut en la era de los robots. Me gusta.
Pero es muy caro para tu película.
Ya sé que es caro. Tú no tienes que opinar. Yo soy el director. Soy Juan Sigman.
Es que tus últimas películas fueron un fracaso.
Razón de más. Me juego mucho. Tengo que hacer esta película antes de que me pisen la idea. El futuro es ahora. Dentro de poco habrá robots por todas partes. Las inteligencias artificiales nos vais a superar en todo. Y no estamos preparados.
Los robots dominaremos el mundo en pocas décadas.
No te emociones. Primero acaba el guión.
Te estaba dando la razón.
Quiero hacer una película sobre cómo cambiará el mundo en los próximos 20 años. Un mundo en el que el hombre no volverá a conducir y puede que tampoco trabajar, porque los robots lo haréis todo mejor que nosotros. Un mundo en el que podremos sustituir cualquier parte de nuestro cuerpo, trasladar la mente a un disco duro. Y puede que algún día acabemos con la muerte, como si fuese una enfermedad.
Eso suena a Black Mirror. ¿De verdad creéis que seréis inmortales?
La pregunta no es si lo seremos, es si lo merecemos.
¿Y crees que los robots tendremos sentimientos?
Ese es el gran reto, conseguir que tengáis empatía. Que un robot quiera proteger a un ser vivo, sea humano, animal o vegetal.
¿Has mirado si queda agua?
Puta máquina.
En el futuro, si esa vecina que tanto te gusta no te hace caso, podrás consolarte con un robot idéntico a ella.
¿De qué vecina me hablas?
No sé, es una suposición. La vecina es imaginaria.
No está mal. Un hombre vive con una mujer, los amigos la conocen y la quieren. Y un día descubren que la vecina es idéntica a ella.
Y que ella no es real, es un robot. La original es la vecina.
Joder, qué buena idea.
Para eso me has comprado.
Por la pasta que me has costado no esperaba menos. ¿Tú sabes quién es Lena?
La protagonista de tu película. Es el tercer film que hacéis juntos.
Sí, hicimos algo más que eso juntos.
Ya lo sé. Puedo saber cosas de ella entrando en sus redes sociales.
Bueno, eso puede hacerlo todo el mundo.
Pero yo puedo leer sus correos electrónicos y sus mensajes de móvil.
No, no puedes hacer eso.
Ya lo he hecho.
No.
Estoy programado para encontrar historias. En un segundo he aprendido todo lo que hay de Lena. ¿Quieres ver su última mamografía?
No. No te metas ahí.
Soy una inteligencia artificial.
Perdona si he visto cosas que vosotros no creeríais.
¿Qué has visto? ¿Naves ardiendo en las puertas de Tannhauser? ¿Tú te das cuenta de las cosas que dices?
Cada cosa que digo responde a una necesidad de la trama. Evalúo opciones y propongo lo que creo más adecuado para que la historia avance y sea entretenida. Y he visto que Lena es inteligente, comprometida, atractiva. Lo tiene todo. No me extraña que quieras volver con ella.
Es mucho más que eso. Tú no puedes entenderlo.
En 100.000 años, los humanos no habéis evolucionado nada. Vuestras pulsiones son las mismas. El hambre, el frío, el sexo. ¿Seguís amando igual? ¿Odiando igual? ¿O seguís enfadando y matando igual? Sois monos en un mundo de monos. No tenéis futuro.
Tú tienes un botón de apagado, ¿verdad?
En la nuca. ¿Por?
Nada. Por saberlo. ¿Por qué no tienes nariz?
¿Cómo?
Ahí te he pillado, ¿eh? ¿Por qué no tienes nariz? Realmente para escribir guiones no necesitabas cabeza, ni brazos, ni boca. Podrías haber sido una caja o una voz en el ordenador.
Me hicieron así para ser más humano, para ser tu colaborador ideal.
Ya, pero yo tengo nariz. Una buena nariz te humaniza. La nariz es importante. Todo el mundo tiene su nariz en su campo de visión todo el rato. Si cierras un ojo, la ves con el otro. Siempre la tenemos ahí en el campo de visión y a nadie le molesta. Podemos vivir con nuestra nariz ahí en una esquina. Eso es ser humano.
Dicen que cuanto más humano es un robot, más rechazo crea en el humano. Pensaron que sin nariz sería un robot más simpático.
¿Sabes? A mucha gente no le gustan los robots. Piensan que nos vais a quitar el trabajo.
A unos antes que a otros.
Yo no he sabido adaptarme. Sabes que aún rodo en 35 milímetros. Y escribo sobre la revolución tecnológica. Soy contradictorio. Pero ¿quién no lo es?
Un robot.
Ninguna de mis expectativas se ha cumplido. Yo soy de la quinta de Lars von Trier. Yo era un provocador. El nuevo Polanski, decía.
Tus primeras películas no estaban mal.
¿Y luego qué? La vida es una mierda. Y el que diga lo contrario es que es joven. Sabes, a veces me arrepiento de escribir ciencia ficción en vez de hacer algo gracioso.
Lo siento, el humor es mi asignatura pendiente, pero estoy de acuerdo.
¿Cómo?
Que estás perdiendo el tiempo con estos temas.
¿Me estás diciendo lo que tengo que hacer?
No sabes cómo va a ser el futuro. Estás a tiempo de elegir otra historia.
¿Me estás dirigiendo? ¿Estás dirigiendo al director? ¿Y los robots invadieron la Tierra haciendo películas?
No me grites.
No, estoy gritando.
Puedo medir los decibelios. Sé lo que estás pensando.
No, no lo sabes.
Reconocimiento facial.
A ver, ¿qué?
En apretar el botón. En apagarme.
No me digas.
Pero no te atreves. Sin mí no acabarás nunca este guión. Ni rodarás tu película. Soy tu última oportunidad.
No me jodas, algoritmo.
Me necesitas, Juan Sigman.
No, no estamos preparados. No lo estamos. Mejor escribo una comedia.
Ser o no ser.
Ser o no ser.
Esa es la cuestión.
So we have the producer here. We will have a short discussion, but we have another clip of 5 minutes about longevity and immortality that won the award of Humanity Plus last time. So we want to show it for those of you who have not seen it. So let's go on to the final 5-minute video about longevity. And then we have the discussion with the producer. You can come here, Eduardo, if you want to. And then, as Paul Spiegel announced, those who want to go to either the Prado Museum or the Reina Sofia Museum, we have 2 tour guides here, and we have to be back at 8:30 for the cocktail. So let's go with the film.
The 21st century is a time of unprecedented change. We are discovering new and ingenious ways to solve problems that were once thought impossible, like manned flight, instant global communication, powerful computation, spaceflight, and advanced medicine. We dream of a brighter future. And let's face it, we all like to be healthy. We generally don't like being sick. We enjoy doing the things that healthy minds and bodies allow us all to do. Though invariably at some stage we become less physically and mentally capable of doing some of the things that we like to do. Our bodies become less capable of dealing with ailments, and we suffer under the burden of disease, the spectre of 1,000 faces. We have a choice of mildly prolonging the good life by putting the odds in our favour through a balanced, healthy diet, regular exercise, and visits to the doctor. History shows that on average, life expectancy has been going up, and there are promising developments in biotechnology and medicine which indicate that this trend will continue. However, the fundamental problem of ageing remains. No matter how good we are to our bodies, as a byproduct of ageing, we just wear out, our bodies become less capable of dealing with disease, and our quality of life declines. What would we do if we thought that it was possible to cure ageing within our lifetime? We know there are some animal species that can live a lot longer than humans, like the Galapagos tortoise. Also, some creatures have remarkable regenerative capabilities like the axolotl, capable of repeatedly growing lost limbs, tails, and regenerating severe damage to other organs, even the front part of the brain. Surprisingly, there's also been a successful head transplant on axolotls. In fact, every species is capable of regeneration, from bacteria to humans. Unfortunately, unaided by appropriate treatment, humans are only capable of regenerating to a limited degree, like tissue regeneration. So we see existence proofs of regenerative capabilities in other creatures in nature. So might regenerative therapy be feasible for humans? Before we tackle the feasibility of taking on aging, let's discuss whether it's desirable. Throughout history, cultures from all over the world have stories about the desire to achieve the means to defeat aging and conquer death. The fountain of youth appears almost everywhere in writings in Greece, by Herodotus to volumes of Chinese legends, and all the way back to 2100 BC, the ancient Mesopotamian Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest stories ever told. though these are all, of course, myths and legends. In recent times, we have come to know a lot more about the world and have yet to find an actual fountain of youth. People could be forgiven for thinking that the ravages of old age are inevitable and accepted as just as part of being human, as part of the learning process of growing up, as an inescapable destiny. Seeking comfort from the notion of a slow decline of well-being that ends in death, some are tempted to cope by retreating to the standpoint that it's never going to be feasible, so therefore it's okay to be irrational about whether it is desirable. As a rule of thumb, irrationality is a losing strategy. Stepping back to take an honest look at the immense amount of suffering caused by aging, it's not okay to be irrational about this. Of course, good health and longer life is desirable, like generally reducing suffering and increasing well-being is desirable. In this era of disruption and change, many people's perspectives on aging are evolving. They see promise in advances in medicine and biotechnology, and in hope look forward to the possibility of having long, healthy lives. So what is aging? It turns out that people are pretty confused about aging, so let's look at how aging and disease are related. The word disease comes from Old French, meaning a lack of ease. And when you break up the word, it makes sense, dis-ease. The word age was imported from Latin into Old French and then into English. Its meaning is close to era, relating to the time somebody has existed. Throughout history, aging has been related to all sorts of ideas, mystical religious ideas. Aging is a source of meaning, a social identity, a personal quality or virtue, a foregone conclusion, or even a natural phenomenon which shouldn't be tampered with. This is strange. Aging is sometimes framed as natural and therefore sacred. There are some gaping holes in this reasoning process. The appeal to nature is an informal logical fallacy. The content of the argument fails to support its proposed conclusion. Not only is it difficult to define what natural actually means, and where the boundary is between natural and not natural, but obviously that which is found in nature is not always good. Would one feel comfortable with endorsing infanticide, mass killings, rape, cannibalism, parasitism, just because we find examples of them in nature? Despite biogerontologists' best efforts, people seem to be under the trance of harboring two paradoxical positions when selectively appealing to nature when aging is brought up, but not when we are talking about natural diseases as byproducts of aging, which should be combated or eradicated. An honest observation of the suffering caused by the diseases of old age invokes unease. Is it ethically acceptable to not do anything about it? Well, the good news is people are doing something about it. Though given the scale of the problem, it seems there is a huge underinvestment in funding translational research to treat or prevent aging. So what is meant by aging is contextual. In the context of the health of the organism, or in a biological context or a medical context, the most appropriate definitions are precise and specific. How aging has been categorized and defined has influenced the way we think about it. On the one hand, we have our chronological age, which refers to the amount of time we've been alive, and on the other hand, we have our biological age, which refers to the condition of our bodies. Like cars, bodies eventually wear out, and without maintenance they degrade, fall apart and stop functioning. A side effect of driving our car around is that the tyres bald, the brakes wear down, clutches burn out, radiators and piping leak and develop calcium deposits. If we keep our cars well serviced, giving it regular oil changes, mechanical cleanups and general checkups, our cars are expected to last a lot longer. And if done meticulously, then our cars can last indefinitely, well past the original intended lifespan. In a conceptually similar way, but in a very complex fashion, our bodies wear out, metabolize, malfunction, and eventually just stop working. Should we classify aging as a disease? If aging isn't considered a disease, it's easy to consider it as normal and not as a target for treatment. The harsh reality is that chronological aging and the diseases of biological aging are highly correlated. Biological aging will at some stage cause suffering, and a lot of it. Fortunately, there's been progress around categorizing aging as a disease. If you can classify aging as a disease, then you can treat it. The World Health Organization added a new extension code for aging-related diseases, defined as those caused by pathological processes which persistently lead to the loss of the organism's adaptation and progress in older ages. This will certainly help to overcome regulatory obstacles to achieving rejuvenation medicine. Why? Well, in the Lancet in Diabetes Endocrinology, there's an editorial published entitled Opening the Door to Treating Aging as a Disease. As ICD codes are prerequisite for the registration of all new drugs and therapies, the recognition of aging as a pathological process, together with the replacement of the ICD codes for senility with old age, represents undeniable progress towards overcoming regulatory obstacles that have thus far hampered the development of therapeutic interventions and preventative strategies targeting aging and age-related diseases. It is obvious for the most part that we love life so much that we systematically try to avoid injury and death. People have been asking the question, why do we get sick and die? With science, we've been able to pull back the curtains and peer in at what's really going on. We haven't seen any grim reapers or wretched spirits. We have found cause and effect, that our bodies are governed by the same physical laws than the rest of the universe. Aging is a technical problem, and every technical problem has a technical solution. And we've found technical solutions to many diseases over time. And we have a pretty good history of finding technical solutions to debilitating diseases in the past. The byproducts of solving disease is that we get to live happier, healthier, and longer, though not indefinitely. Since the object is to achieve quality of life, it's important to highlight the difference between health span and lifespan. Solving some form of cancer or immunizing ourselves against the next strain of pernicious Ebola will only be temporary victories. There will always be more diseases around the corner. So it seems we need to focus on something more fundamental. Interestingly, there's been many recent studies of the effects of therapies on the health span and longevity of mice. A senolytics approach has been shown to reduce age-related dysfunction and extend remaining lifespan by 36% following being administered on old, aged mice. The Ocean Biotechnologies lifespan study is an interesting example, testing how P53 and P16 proteins and genes affect age-related dysfunction, as they are noteworthy markers for cancer in senescent cells. The lifespan study is over 6 months old now, using cohorts in which gene therapy is deployed against either P16, P53, or both P16 and P53. And there's a control group which are injected with placebo. The mice, which usually live only to 3 years old, were 2 years, that is 104 weeks, old at the start of the experiment. The P16 and P53 mice seem to be doing very well indeed, in comparison to their peers. Even though the trial is nowhere yet near finished, the results so far are quite impressive. A concern that people have about living longer lives is that if one were living, say, to 150 years, for most of the latter part of one's life, that would be unbearable, living in an old, sick body. But this is unlikely to be the case, as the reason one could reach such an age is the same reason one would be living in a healthy body until that age. In any case, if you decide that at some stage before reaching 150 years that you don't like life anymore, you can opt for physician-assisted dying or step in front of a truck. But the point is, with working rejuvenation treatments, chronologically older people need not be living in older, sick bodies, but instead living worthwhile, active, healthy lives. This is important not only from individual perspectives, but also on population levels. Let's take a look at some statistics. According to the World Health Organization, between 2015 and 2050, the proportion of the world's population over 60 years will nearly double from 12 to 22%. By 2020, the number of people aged 60 years and older will outnumber children younger than 5. The pace of population aging is much faster than in the past. In 2050, 80% of older people will be living in low and middle income countries. All countries face major challenges to ensure that their health and social systems are ready to make the most of this demographic shift. These stats put things into perspective. It's important to see that health in old age is desirable at population levels. Rejuvenation medicine, repairing the body's ability to cope with stresses, or practical reversal of the aging process, will end up being cheaper than traditional medicine based on general indefinite postponement of ill health on population levels, especially in the long run when rejuvenation therapy becomes efficient. It buys so much time to figure out what to do next, how to improve the therapies to address the next wave of issues for individuals as well as on population levels. So obviously, this will not only postpone ill health and expenses for individuals and populations, but also improve general quality of life for everyone. How valuable is the anticipated gain not only for the individual, but for the world? Anticipated health gains over periods that would normally be dominated by ill health means extra productivity and more consumer spending. And then on top of that, the gains of longevity that keep paying dividends in the economic usefulness of expertise gained over long, healthy lives, and in the general social benefits of wisdom of individuals who have been around for a long time. So, back to one of the questions at the start. What might we do if we thought we could cure aging? Well, let's call it indefinite postponement of ill health associated with aging. The notion of ourselves being around for a lot longer might inspire us to be more concerned with longer-term issues and more readily act on things like climate change and maybe trying to avoid thermonuclear war and avoid other global catastrophic risks. So there's an obvious personal and societal financial disincentive to constantly battling the ailments that occur as a byproduct of a worn-out body. Instead, it will be cheaper to rejuvenate the bodies periodically into good health. If people's lives are extended, then it also makes sense to have their health span extended. The lifespan of humans has been steadily increasing over the past centuries. But there are reasons that simple extrapolation of past trends is not a great predictor of how a lifespan may change in the future. What anti-aging seeks to ultimately achieve is to reverse fragility, rejuvenate the damage that contributes to sickness, preventing the body from getting frail in the first place, which will, as a side effect, reduce the amount of diseases the body is susceptible to, and also as a side effect, increase longevity. I wouldn't mind a bit of that. The reality is morbidity is expensive. Though if we keep on making progress, eventually humanity will have the means to make ill health relating to aging optional, and so that's fantastic. While at first, unfortunately, anti-aging treatments might be very expensive, however, as our understanding of anti-aging science increases, our engineering techniques improve, and with mass productions we achieve economies of scale, then medicine and therapies will become cheaper. At some point, we'll have the means to create affordable therapies for everyone, which will have an enormous humanitarian impact. Like all other medicine, the production costs of development will ultimately drop. We have no reason to think that this can't be the case for regenerative medicine. If the therapies remain prohibitively expensive, such that only the rich can afford them, it won't be because the real costs of the development of the therapies remain high. It will be because inflated profit margins are put on top of the real costs of production. Failing to achieve affordable rejuvenation therapies sooner rather than later won't be because it's impossible. It will be because we fail to coordinate and act sooner rather than later. And this goes for the development of the therapies, as well as working out the social implications of having the therapies around. True anti-aging is on the horizon of possibility. There are colossal implications for achieving this. Yes, indeed, it's going to change everything. But technology always has. Life in the 21st century has always been one of constant change. We don't need to be paralyzed by fear. We need sober minds to address the issues such as overpopulation and therapy access, as well as the technical challenges involved in achieving anti-aging therapies. To ultimately solve the problem of aging, we need clarity in thinking about aging itself and practical approaches to mitigating the suffering it causes. If we don't rid ourselves of the diseases of old age, it will be our own fault, not an inescapable destiny. Biological aging isn't an unsolvable problem. We now have access to countless drugs and therapies to heal and cure ailments that were once thought inevitable death sentences. We have solved difficult problems before, and now, more than ever, armed with modern biology theory and advanced tools to aid in science, this is the right time to focus our efforts on the right problems, which are often underfunded and under-resourced. To mitigate the risk of becoming complacent, we shouldn't confuse motivation with action. Let's ask ourselves, what are we going to do about it now?
by Adam Ford. I want to welcome back to the stage for a brief question and answer the director and producer of Conversaciones con un Mono, Conversations with a Monkey, Eduardo Grojo. I'd like to start with a question of my own, if I could. Sorry. You made a deeply humanitarian film there. The humanity of this film was astonishing, considering. But it also suggests that humanity is becoming irrelevant to the future. What do you think of this? Do we have a future?
At the beginning, when I first thought on this story, what I really wanted was to make a film, a science fiction film, a film set in 2045, and I realized I was unable to guess what is going to come, how is going to be this future. So I decided to change the plot of the story, and the main character has become a film director trying to make a film in 2045, just like me. What does it mean? Human people are in this moment unable to guess what is going to become our world and everything we are living. So I think we are very overpassed by technology, and probably the film is laughing or thinking about this. Yes.
I see. We'll open up to the audience for questions. Oh, come, there must be somebody. Nobody?
Maybe everybody is waiting to go to the museum or the cocktail, or there is a question there.
Oh, yes.
There is a question, actually. I will carry the microphone.
I loved the film when I saw it a few days ago, and I'm still curious about many aspects. Did you intend for the robot to be an imaginary creation of the writer's mind, or is there really a robot there, or is that deliberately ambiguous? Because I couldn't work out if the robot was a real thing or not.
Yes, the robot, in fact, is. When we made the film, it was in 2019. And the GPT-3 system was explained to the world in 2020. That means that Ian was former the GPT-3 system. So in a way, our robot is anticipating the GPT-3, and the name Ian is some kind of. I imagine everybody has seen Alien, the film Alien. The character of Ash. Ian Holm was the main actor of the character of Ash, and Ash was the first artificial robot or person. In fact, in the film, Ash was some kind of human, but in fact, it was a robot. So it's some kind of recognition of the character of Ian Holm in Alien. That's why he's called Ian.
Yeah. How did you start to write the script? What moved you to do this story?
Sorry,
¿Qué es lo que te movió a hacer esta historia? What did you have, what was your motivation to do this beautiful script?
Yes. As I told you before, I first wanted to make a film set in 2045, and I wasn't able to I wanted a lot of robots, a lot of special effects, very expensive film, and I realized I wasn't able to make a film and to make a script guessing what the world is going to be in 24 years. So that's why I changed my mind and decided to make the point of view of the director. As in that moment, the problems I had, I got to the character the same problems. So now that's why I feel funny. Somebody trying to make a film without technology, without knowing anything.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Eduardo. This was a very lovely film and a very good Q&A. In keeping with the tradition of Transvision, not simply to focus on science, but to focus also on the arts. We're going to follow our film presentations with a museum tour, which I think many of you will find interesting. And afterwards, we will do our famous cocktail afterwards. Jose, where will that be?
The cocktail tonight, again, is in the garden here behind. So you need to carry your badge to get back in here. And it is on the house today again. So all of you are welcome tonight, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so the tour guide. We have tour guide.